Good evening, good afternoon, good night, good morning, wherever you are. That's in no particular order, as usually I'm not either. It's Abs from October Red, and it is today's news and reviews. First of all, housekeeping. I need to apologise about the lack of content from Sheffield. I was supposed to go there, but I was doing the old public transport thing, and it all went wrong, and I missed the time for my public transport to get up there, so that flopped it. Probably should have drove, shoulda, woulda, coulda, didn't get up there, but we are here. I have arranged to speak to Frank Smith next week, potentially Monday, and I think it's perfect timing with everything that's going on at the moment. The reason for this news and reviews, this short notice, impromptu news and reviews, is because of an article that's been published in the Daily Mail Sport. All week we've had the shows ready to go. We've got Zuffa and Matchroom on Saturday. I spoke to two Zuffa, I should say it properly, shouldn't I? Zuffa fighters this week. And yeah, but it's not Matchroom going up against Zuffa, it's BOXXER. So an article's gone out in the Daily Mail Sport. It's an exclusive. Dana White's boxing startup sued by rival promotion run by Ben Shalom over claims they poached fighters under contract. Its application seeks, and this is what we're saying, seeks, so it's not yet done it, orders to prevent further interference with boxers' contractual fights and business relationships, and to prevent the use of fighters who remain under the binding agreements with BOXXER until those contractual issues are resolved. Billam-Smith, who won the WBO Cruiserweight World title as a BOXXER fighter in 2023, has previously stated that his deal with Shalom expired at the end of 2025. It was then announced in April that he'd signed a multi-fight deal with Zuffa, led by UFC chief Dana White and backed by Saudi Arabian funding. We spoke about Seller and TKO yesterday, on an ambitious play to corner the global boxing market. BOXXER's argument is understood to be rooted in a claim that Billam-Smith's new arrangement fell within a period when they had matching rights on any offer. The contention on Hickey is that he was still under contract when he signed with Zuffa last month. Zuffa and SkySports. At the moment, I think they've been reached out to by the Daily Mail. They've declined to comment at this time, and I think that's probably the best thing to do when there's legal proceedings on the way. BOXXER, whose output is broadcast on the BBC and streaming platform DAZN at times, were previously tied to a 4-year deal with Sky Sports. Sky opted against extending the partnership in June 2025 and penned a long-term contract with Zuffa, and we know MVP as well, earlier on this year. Let's have a look, just make sure we've got all of that in there. Yep, so that is it in a nutshell. So that is what we've got today. There's another thing that I wanted to play you before we get into it, and it's a Ben Shalom interview that he did with Seconds Out, and I think it was a few days ago. I think it was at their last show. Let me just make sure I've got the right bit.
Of course let's see what happens. It'll be up to him.
I just want to round off on, obviously I saw your comments about kind of Zuffa's upcoming show and a few fighters there that maybe you've worked with in the past, maybe some legal obligations to overcome.
It's just the contracts, yeah.
So have those fights been agreed without your approval?
Yeah, 100%. That's why it's almost like, I think they should name me as a co-promoter. I should definitely be paid.
So I'm going to ask Ben, is that being pursued in terms of a legal sense? Are you looking to...
There's a woman involved doing the Sky Boxing now that has been listed in a legal case and was interfering with our staff and fighters for 2 years. 2 years. Again, I'll say in my opinion, but we've seen the evidence, and she's now involved in trying to wrestle those fighters onto Sky shows. It's very, very shady, indeed.
Do you expect a resolution soon?
No, I think this is going to get serious because it's quite astonishing. Sometimes I think that maybe they don't know what we've seen, or they don't know what this has been going on for nearly 2.5 years. Interfering in staff, interfering with fighters, stopping our business moving, stopping us sign fighters, stopping us develop as a business from the inside, and that those same people are carrying on. And the cheek of it as well, to actually put fighters that are in contract to BOXXER on a Sky Sports show. You know, it's crazy.
That's been on that note. Then how is that feasibly possible if they're contracted physically to BOXXER?
Because if people don't care, which they clearly don't about contracts, because my contracts have been broken repeatedly by these people, then that needs to be seen to, and it will all come out. And people cannot operate like that. And it might just be me saying it right now, but watch when this happens, and I'm sure it will get the spotlight it deserves. Because as you said, how is it possible?
I was going to ask one on that then. In any of those contracts, did any of them have it stipulated that they had to fight on Sky Sports, for example? So is that
I'm referring to fighters on that card and nothing to do with that.
So that's what we got from an interview that Ben Shalom did with Seconds Out. So shout out to Seconds Out, and it's Andy Purell, previously of Boxing News, that has done that interview with Ben Shalom. So that's where we are. So we saw that this was coming. Obviously, he's waited until the fighters have got on the scales to potentially put this, you know, we're going to take some legal action against you. I'm with Andy. It's like, how on earth have those fighters been allowed to sign contracts, even allowed to go on stage, and they're supposed to be in a contract? Surely it was like, if you do this, you're going to get sued. However, he's looking to get a further injunction. There's key points then, so I'm just going to summarize it. And as per usual, I want you guys to put your 50 pence worth in the comments, because I appreciate that. And I think it is a great talking topic. Once again, Ben's not going down without a fight. We've seen this with him before. He will stand up and fight his corner. Fair play to him. You know, if he believes he's in the right, then absolutely that's what he should do. You have to remember that he was in illegal proceedings with John Wishausen, and we've discussed this on News and Reviews a long time ago now, a few months back, about this actual thing where the injunction was to stop them actually approaching any fighters within a period of time, etc., etc. And he's gone as far as in this interview that he's done with Seconds Out to say there's a female. He's not given any names, but he says there's a female from Sky Sports that has interfered with fighters, interfered with his staff, etc., etc. He does go on to say, in my opinion, obviously that's to cover any potential defamation or any legals that can come back to him. However, it seems quite clear that's what he actually thinks. So in summary then, Ben Shalom discusses ongoing legal disputes involving Zuffa Boxing and Sky Sports, focusing on contract breaches and interference by a third party affecting fighters and staff, which has hindered business operations over what he says coming up to 2.5 years. There's some key points in here. I'm going to do some more digging if I can. Obviously wait till more articles come out, but the key points is Sky Sports is broadcasting Zuffa Boxing shows, but there's a legal injunction involving Ben Shalom against Sky Sports, right? That injunction, the interim injunction, was granted, and then it went quiet. You couldn't find any more articles about it, so I thought, oh, maybe they've settled out of court or whatever. It seems maybe not. There's this mystery woman that's involved with Sky Sports Boxing that's been interfering with BOXXER's staff and fighters, leading to potentially or allegedly contract breaches, which could therefore move forward onto legal action. Fighters contracted, this is what Ben Shalom's saying, fighters contracted to BOXXER have been placed on Sky Sports shows despite their existing contracts not coming to an end or are actually in dispute. So, like I said, it really raises a question about how do you enforce contracts then? I know when, obviously, Conor Ben fought on his card, the other day, it was like, oh, he signed a one-fight deal for 15 million, and obviously they did some wrangle-tangle, and then all of a sudden he announces that he signs with Zuffa for I can't remember, was it 5 fights, 2.5 years, whatever. They kind of like nailed that one down there, even though I do believe something is still bubbling under the surface, and I will speak to Frank Smith about that. But there is still, with these ones, you know, Eddie Hearn openly admitted I didn't have a contract with Conor Benn. I didn't feel like I needed to. And it seems as if Eddie Hearn does trust you, because he said the same thing about Casey Taylor today. He's like, we've never had a contract. So he's kind of old school, where it's a handshake and your word is your bond, which clearly these days it cannot work. It's really unsafe. So Ben Shalom suggests as well in that interview that he should be named as the co-promoter, because at the end of the day they've got two of his fighters. So he believes that he's owed something. If they're putting his fighters on their shows, then at this point he should be named as a co-promoter. And like I said before, the dispute's been going on for about 2.5 years, and now we can't be sure that there's any real resolution at this time. So what I'm going to do is just monitor it, see what comes out, if the Daily Mail does a follow-up on it. If anybody gets to speak to Ben Shalom in the meantime, just have a listen to what he's saying to them, and see if we can start to put some pieces together. If anybody has the courage to speak to Dana White about this, or just ask him any question that they can on it, it would be appreciated. There seems to be a little bit of a stigma and a fear that you can't ask him questions, challenging questions. So we'll see what comes out of any of these post-fight pressers, because surely this is going to be a hot topic. And if it was Frank Warren, if it was Eddie Hearn, and if it was Ben Shalom, the questions would be asked of them. So I don't see why anybody should be extended any exceptional courtesy when it comes to asking questions about something that's going on. And fair enough, if it's legal, you can shut them down. But to sit there and not ask about it, I think would be piss poor, if I'm completely honest. So we need to know what legal steps are being pursued against Sky Sports. They've said that it's back on the injunction word again. Potentially, who's this woman involved in the interference, and what's her actual role, and if these contracts are or have been breached. It's an allegation at the moment. How's that going to affect Zuffa? I mean, at the end of the day, I think CBS signed with Zuffa in April, and we're now in June. Why is it taking this long to come out about it? Is it, obviously there's been something going on behind the scenes, and it seems to have reared its ugly head this weekend. But you know what? Let me know what you think in the comments. This is just a quick one, a quick news and reviews for you guys over the weekend. And like I said, I'll catch you next week when I speak to Frank Smith, and I'll probably go into some of this with him, to be fair. Albeit it doesn't include Matchroom, I'd still like his point of view as a promoter. I'd also like the point of view of Frank Warren as well, Eddie Hearn, Callie Sowland, even though it seems as if Eddie's kind of softening towards Ben Shalom. He's mentioned recently that he was on the phone to him a couple of nights ago and basically telling him to just, have some kahunas about you and fight your corner. So we'll see what happens there. Funny old world, isn't it, boxing? Listen, guys, have a fabulous weekend. And as we say, October Red, stay ready.